If you're anything like me, you probably know of SmallRig because of their line of camera cages and video accessories, but they just released a brand new set of COB LED lights, the 120D and the 120B, at a very competitive price point. In this video, I'm gonna go over who I think these lights are for and some of the things I like after having tested them for the last few weeks. There are a few things I think could be improved with the overall design and a few other alternatives you might want to consider before jumping full in on making this purchase. Full disclaimer, SmallRig did send me these lights for free, but this video is not sponsored and they didn't ask me to make this video. First off, who are these lights for? I think these are great entry-level or mid-range lights for anyone with a home studio setup, whether you're a creator making short-form content or a YouTuber that just wants a lighting setup for your videos. The light body is almost entirely polycarbonate except for some parts on the bottom, which makes them a better option if you plan to set them up permanently rather than moving them around or tearing them up and down between shoots. That being said, they do come with a very solid carrying case that is perfect for transporting or storing them when they're not in use. When you first get these lights, inside the case is the light itself, but also a hyper reflector. This allows you to get a more focused beam out of the light. You also get a power cable that's about 21 feet long with about 10 feet on either side of the power brick, which gives you lots of room for reaching a power outlet. I've been using mine with an Aperture SE light dome, the one that you see back there, but apparently SmallRig is releasing their own lineup of light domes that will be available sometime in the future, so hopefully I'll be able to try those as well. Now, what I like about these lights. These are COB lights, and COB stands for Circuit on Board. They are a newer type of LED that is brighter and more energy efficient than regular LEDs. If you're like me and you're used to using small LED panels, like this one for your shoots or for your videos, I was surprised that even at 50% intensity with a softbox, I was able to get enough light in my video footage to keep the ISO on my camera at around 800, which is great because it means the video footage is cleaner and less noisy than if you had to bump up your ISO. From what I can tell, the 120D in the model name stands for 120 watts. The D model, which sells for $219, is a daylight calibrated light at 5600 Kelvin. That's the color temperature. This is gonna be perfect for the majority of applications, but if you're someone who does like a warmer looking light, the 120B model or the bicolor light allows you to change color temperature, and you can go all the way from 2700 Kelvin to match the indoor light bulbs like the ones I have over there, or you can go all the way up to 6500 Kelvin to match cloudy overcast lighting. Now, pro tip, if you wanna know more about color temperature, go watch this video on white balance. It's pretty good. So again, these lights are bright. In fact, the spec sheet says that this 120D model that I have outputs at around 62,600 lux at 1 meter. Now it's 1 meter because that's where the measurement is taken at a distance from the light source. And if my understanding is correct, this measurement includes the attachment of the hyper reflector. Worth noting is that the 120B model, the bicolor model, outputs slightly less light at around 52,800 lux for the same 1 meter distance. You might assume that because these lights are so bright, they consume a ton of power, but COB lights are actually better than conventional LEDs in terms of power consumption, which is why SmallRig also released, I don't know if you can see it back there, but the XLR to V-mount battery adapter. Now, I don't use V-mount batteries for what I do, but if you are someone who needs to use these lights away from a wall outlet, this is a great option to have. There are a few things I don't like about the lights, and generally there's not too much to complain about. The build quality, even though it is polycarbonate, is actually pretty good, but don't expect to throw these downstairs. Again, this is gonna be perfect for a home studio setup where you don't have to move it too much. One thing to note, there is an umbrella holder on the underside of this body here, which is a great add-on to have if you want to use light modifiers, but don't want to mess with massive softbox diffusers. However, when you slide an umbrella through the hole, like this guy here, it ends up going through and hitting the power adapter on the back of the body. It's not a huge deal, but it is something to be aware of if you're using umbrellas that are really big or really long. Number two, the Bowens mount adapter that is on the front of this isn't as firm as you might hope. So it does have a bit of play, and this is by no means a deal breaker, but again, for the price and the quality and the build and everything that you're getting for this value, I wouldn't let that stop you from considering these lights. Three, these lights do have an internal fan. Now, they don't run all the time, and I personally don't find them noisy, but if you do need an absolutely perfectly silent set and you need to boost the brightness, this might be a problem. Now, I notice if you run the lights on full brightness, the fan comes on more often versus if you run them on a lower setting. And as a note, the light back there has been running on about 3000 Kelvin at 20% since I started, and it hasn't come on at all. Final thing to note, the lights do have built-in effects that can be controlled with the switches on the back. They can also be controlled wirelessly via Bluetooth with the SmallRig SmallGoGo app. I had to download the app manually from SmallRig, so I'll leave a link in the description below. I found that the app is not quite as polished as apps from other companies, but it has everything you need if you do want to dim or turn off the lights, as well as change settings for all of the built-in effects. A quick recap on the pricing and some of the alternatives you might want to consider before jumping full in on this purchase. The 120D is the cheaper of the two models at around $219 US. The closest competitor currently available on the market is going to be something like the Aputure Amaran 100D or the Amaran 200D. The Aputure 100D is about $20 cheaper than the SmallRig, but there's a catch because it only outputs 39,500 lux compared to the 62,000 lux of the SmallRig. You'll have to jump up to the more expensive Aputure 200D, which costs $300 in order to get a comparable 65,000 lux. It's a similar story for the SmallRig 120B, which is the guy back there. The B model costs $259. You'd have to go with the Aputure 200X, which costs $90 more at $350 to match the light output of the RC 120B. One final note to consider is if you already own other Aputure lights and are invested in that whole ecosystem, their wireless Sidus Link app has been around longer and does feel like a more premium product experience compared to the newer SmallRig SmallGoGo app. Now, personally, I don't use apps to control my lights, so in either case, whether you want a single color light or a bi-color light, from a pure value cost to light output perspective, getting the most light for the lowest price, the SmallRig lights are gonna be your better choice. Anyways, that's all for this one. I just wanted to share my thoughts since a lot of you were asking questions after I showcased these on TikTok. Go ahead, leave a comment if you think you might pick one of these up for yourself, or find me on Instagram and send me a DM of your picture photo studio setup if you do end up picking a pair. And until next time, peace.